Good morning. We're on Church Green this morning to speak to local history expert Derek West to discuss the falling of the bomb on Church Green, which happened 80 years ago.
Yes, well here we go, Joy. This is the site of the bombs. There were two bombs dropped on the 21st and 22nd of November 1940 after an intense week of enemy aircraft bombings. There was something like 500 aircraft came over, so London was badly damaged and so on. And this is a story of deliverance really for Witney, where two bombs fell. One fell over here. Pan around that. There's a sort of a dip there we can see where the bomb landed, and we can pick up the blast pattern from some damage over here that's done on the rail there. We can show you that in a minute. The bomb itself was a 250 kilogram bomb. If you can imagine, that is a big piece of kit, and it went off there. It's called the SC-250, which was the Sprengbomber Cylindrisch. So they used absolutely loads of these, so it's very likely that was the one they used, a big bomb like that. Mercifully, the steel shortages, because of all the production they were doing in Germany at the time, was reducing the steel stock, so it may not have had such a strong casing, which would have reduced the damage. So if you'd like to follow over here, see where the railing was damaged here by some shrapnel. This is the sort of damage it caused to a solid bar, that was a piece of shrapnel that swept across through here. There must have been quite small trees, if you can imagine those 80 years ago, and then it took the buildings out here, but actually only blew the windows out and did some roof damage, which was remarkable when you know that the original buildings, they were built in the early 1600s. They were improved in the late 1700s.
Yes.
But
obviously nice and solid buildings.
Absolutely, I think that's an incredible testimony to the way they were built. So there was not much damage. There are photos around at the museum, and I should say, with regard to the museum, that a lot of the information I got on this story is from Stanley Jenkins, who wrote a terrific book called Witney Through Time. So a lot of the information is in there, and I've done extra research on it just to pick up a bit more of the picture of the history of it. So apparently, I'd got this information from Richard Dossett Davis, whose father was a messenger for the civil defence, and he said one of his greatest enemies of the day was boredom. There was just nothing going on in Witney.
We can relate to that at the moment.
Whereas all around there was lots of areas of bombing in the military installations. Obviously Brides Norton and Stanton Harcourt got bombed quite heavily. Witney got off comparatively light with just two bombs. So there was the one here, and there was one behind the brewery over there, which did damage to the school partly and some other buildings. This one did damage across here to these buildings. I don't hear much about the buildings on the other side. I guess they were equally damaged in some way. The windows blown out.
So is there any particular reason Witney? Was it just on the pathway and they thought, let's drop one here?
It's an interesting story, isn't it? Because there is a bit of evidence to suggest that this building here was the headquarters of the invasion committee, which if the enemy aircraft knew that they were there, that was a pretty good shot at the target.
Yes.
I don't think they knew it. What there was a lot of military vehicles parked up around the green, which I thought may not have been the smartest idea when you think about it, to put military vehicles in a populated area. But there was a big air raid shelter under the green. And I've heard stories about the underground complex. It may have been built on top, but I suspect it was largely under the ground. It's all been filled in now, but it kept, people could get there. So I'm assuming after this intensified, heightened awareness that there was an air raid warning in the middle of the night or whatever, it was night bombing as far as we know, that people went into the shelter, and hence there were very few casualties. I didn't hear of anybody.
No, I haven't heard of any casualties, which is, when you think about the size of the bomb, is pretty amazing, really.
Absolutely.
And the fact that it landed on the green rather than on top of one of the buildings where there would have been casualties.
Yeah.
I think we got off lucky there.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's an amazing thing, isn't it, to think that that was the only 2 bombs that fell here on really the centre of population. So while we're sheltering from the showers, we can look back along and see that the kind of area that the bomb hit. There is what was the old police station here, which is now the reception area of Henry Box School. You can see along to where the cottages were, and the house beyond, which was the Invasion Committee headquarters, interestingly. And most of the civil defence, the Air ARP section, was concentrated on Wood Green, so it's away from here. And that's where the section 4, I think they got area 4 of the civil defence for the region. We were all in area 4, which there's a terrific map which shows where all the bombs fell, and we just see our 2 little bombs on Witney, thinking, wow, yeah, that was great to that there wasn't more damage, and as you say, if it landed on properties. Yeah. As we're standing outside St Mary's, we can mention another story of, and this was a tragedy, that an aircraft was towing a glider. It had left Weston on the Green on a training flight, a pilot and a co-pilot in a Miles Master 2 towing aircraft, which was towing a glider, which they used in Invasion, as we know later on, a Hotspur glider, and they came over and people said that they'd seen the aircraft in trouble. They were supposed to be flying at a height not below 200 feet, so clearly they were, and they said it was looking a bit dangerous. And the pilot of the glider realised there was trouble going on, and he cast off and sailed along and landed in cogs fairly well. But the plane, unfortunately, the Miles Master, crashed through the top of the sky and the 2 pilots, which was the greatest tragedy across all, that were both 19 years old, so very young. One was teaching the other, and that plane crashed. And it's a really nice memorial to them on the roof of the chancel. They've decorated on the ceiling of the chancel. There's a whole story related there inside the church. So it wasn't without its tragedy through the war, this area, but remarkably it did get off very right in the scheme of things.
Yes, you know, London's not that far away. Absolutely. And we got off very lightly.
So here we are, Joy, at the memorial, another place where there's a very visible sign of the war, of the people that gave their lives for the war effort. And this is very central to Witney's history. Obviously, not so much that we've been able to get everybody together this year with the distancing and so on, but it's still very much part of the story of Witney and the men who gave their lives for it. So it seems appropriate that it's so close to the site of where the bomb fell, and the other bomb is literally across the way here in the Brewery, very close to what's happening. So here you can remember all those events, and I'd always encourage people just to look at the history of Witney. It's just incredible, goes way back to bishops of Winchester coming up in 1000 BC. That's way back, coming up and establishing the bishop's palace, right back to the first civil war with Stephen and Matilda, and it goes way back, all that history up to the church there in 1243 that was rededicated, and that's far enough ago, but it was there long before that. So I would really encourage people to look at the history of Witney and see what's around, especially to visit the museum when it's open again in the spring. Look at Stanley Jenkins' book, Witney Through Time, and there's lots of other people that have got many stories to tell about our town.
Thank you very much, Derek. I'm sure this will inspire people to go off and have a look at the book and go to Witney Museum, which has some fantastic resources, and just find out a little bit more about what happened in Witney. Thank you, Derek.